everyone, my name is Laras and I come from HGDB4 and our topic is about deep brain stimulations. And this is our members of HGDB4 and I'm going to explain about the introduction. So the background of this paper is about deep brain stimulation or DBS. DBS is a neurosurgical procedure which involves implantation of neurostimulator into deep brain regions to treat tremor, rigidity, and dyskinesia along with a number of movement disorders. This DBS development began in 90s and DBS has a great promise and there is a reasonable cause to believe that the next 50 years of advance will bring greater benefits. So this is the problem statement and this is the aims. So the benefit of this paper is first one, students understand about deep brain stimulation, and the second one, this paper is expected to provide benefits such as basic knowledge and understanding of deep brain stimulation. And the next one is going to explain by my friend.
The second chapter will start with the definition. Deep brain stimulation is a surgical procedure used to treat various neurological impairment symptoms such as stiffness, rigidity, tremor, slow movement, dystonia, focal epilepsy, etc. that cannot be adequately controlled with medications by implanting electrode into deep brain region. The idea of DBS surgery is to deliver controlled electrical impulses in order to restore the balance of circuits that are disrupted. DBS system has three different compartments. The first is the lead, which also called as the electrode, is a thin insulated wire that implanted using stereotactic techniques and is attached to the IPG. The second one is the extension, is an insulated wire that is passed under the skin of the head, neck, and shoulder, interfacing the lead to the implantable pulse generator. The IPG consists of battery and electronic components that deliver the electrical stimulation. Once the system is placed, the electrical stimulation that can be externally controlled by patient and clinicians are sent from the IPG up along the extension and the lead to the brain.
Okay, the story will be discussed by me and Alden. The first one, we will look deeper back into the late of 19th century. The researchers started to discuss about the experiment of brain stimulation, and in the early of 90s, the first stereotactic frame was developed. In 1947, the surgeon's ability to localize targets in the brain area started to improve due to the invention of X-ray pneumoencephalography. In 1950s, the researchers found that the lesion treatment could be the answer for tremor. In 1960s, the development of deep brain stimulation was become stagnant due to its high risk of stereotactic neurosurgery compared to levodopa treatment, which was found to be effective in treating Parkinson's symptoms. And the next one will be discussed by Alden.
So in 1963, Albert Fessard reported that stimulation of high electricity into the ventral intermediate thalamic nucleus could relieve tremor in Parkinson's disease. Next, in 1967, implantable spinal cord stimulators were introduced by Shilley and his colleagues, which later led the researchers into the modern deep brain stimulation. After a stagnant development in the later 1960s, finally, in 1980, the levodopa treatment, which was once preferred, was found to be ineffective in treating Parkinson's disease due to a developed resistance. Later in 1989, the researchers found that the subthalamic nucleus of patients with Parkinson's disease become overactive. At the same time, a team of researchers found that the use of high-frequency deep brain stimulation is effective to lesion the thalamic region in patients with Parkinson's disease. After that, the first implementation of deep brain stimulation was demonstrated in 1991. And then in 1993, the treatment of subthalamic nucleus using deep brain stimulation was reported effective in treating Parkinson's disease motor symptoms. Eventually, in 1994, deep brain stimulation was found to be an alternative in treating pallidal ablation by targeting the GPI or the internal globus pallidus. By the end of the decade, the use of deep brain stimulation became widespread in treating Parkinson's disease. The next one will be presented by Ari.
The next is clinical role or clinical effect of DBS. DBS is known to positively affect the key symptom of this disease and thus decrease the amount of medication required while improving the quality of life for a significant proportion of the patient. Combination of DBS therapy affect the patient on the cell, molecular, or bioelectrical level. Many systematic review and meta-analysis aim to study the clinical role of DBS, such as For Parkinson's disease, the study using 251 patients found that in the DBS group, the dosage of levodopa was decreased by 39%, while in the group with the best medical care, it was increased by 21%. For patients with dystonia, a meta-analysis study using 523 patients with hereditary or idiopathic dystonia found a significantly 65.2% decrease in the dystonia motor scale, and also disability rating have been lowered by 58.6% in DBS therapy. For patients with epilepsy, the active DBS group had a substantially higher reduction in seizure frequency after a 3-month blended period with value of 40.4% than the non-symptomatic group with a value of 14.5%. In OCD cases, 108 patients with obsessive-compulsive disorder found that DBS treatment demonstrate change in OCD score as much as 47.7%. Next.
Hi, my name is Dugo Kupraitno and I will explain about the indication of deep brain stimulations. DBS indication and target population are still growing, similar to other neurosurgical techniques. The range of indication for DBS has expanded within several decades. Parkinson's with target subthalamic nucleus and internal globus pallidus are well established now, as well as essential tremor and with target ventral intermediate thalamus, and dystonia with target internal globus pallidus. Parkinson with target pedunculopic nucleus and zona incerta are not widely implemented, just like essential tremor with target zona incerta, and many more examples that can be seen at the slide. There are indications that very limited investigations, like addiction, anorexia, and obesity with target nucleus accumbens, and Alzheimer with target formic and ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and Huntington with target internal globus pallidus. In the future, DBS are expected to more developed than it already are. For example, elucidation of the DBS therapeutic action mechanisms, and DBS are expected to develop the different method and miniaturizations of DBS system.
I want to explain about the mechanism of action of deep brain stimulation. As explained before, deep brain stimulation is a surgical procedure that involves the transplantation of one or more electrodes in brain. These electrodes are used to transmit electrical pulse from the pacemaker to the specific area of brain, then block the abnormal brain signal that can lead to various neurological disorders. Next, and here's for the details. First, electrical effects at the stimulation's target. There's a heterogeneous effect combined between non-neural tissue with an irregular neurotransmitter release called pulse synaptic noise. These pathological neurocircuits are disrupted and moved to a more beneficial state. The second, electrical effect in the neural network using ST and DBS is uncoupled from its afferents. And the third, neurochemical effects. DBS has a special effect of neurochemicals such as dopamine, GABA, noradrenaline, and serotonin release. So using DBS can increase dopamine, noradrenaline, and GABA levels. And about the serotonin, ST and DBS can lower the serotonin release.
DBS can help reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease patients. The most common symptoms of PIRI are resting tremor, bradykinesia, rigidity, changes in gait, and disordered balance. DBS treatment in Parkinson's disease targets the subthalamic nucleus, or STN, and the globus pallidus internus, or GPI, of the brain. ST and DBS can reduce symptoms and dopaminergic medication, whereas GPI can improve cognitive and psychiatric symptoms. The symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are difficulties in remembering things, progressive disorientation to time and location, also progressive word finding, difficulties, and aphasia. In Alzheimer's disease, DBS targets the nucleus basalis, or NBM, and the fornix of the brain. And NBM DBS has a long-term effect in young patients with less advanced at these stages, whereas the fornix DBS can significantly reduce the rate of hippocampal atrophy and also improves memory. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain about the benefit of deep brain stimulation. As a surgical and clinical tool, DBS is adjustable, meaning that the stimulation can be adjusted so it is a lot easier to achieve the wanted effect. And second, DBS can measure the pathological brain activity directly while the doctor is still doing the operation. And third, DBS is a non-lesional procedure, so it is considered safer than any other surgical procedure options out there. And as a scientific tool, DBS can be used to find out further about the unknown etiology of many brain dysfunction. And DBS can also help in technological innovation and improving safety and clinical outcomes. Thank you.
My name is Gede Brianugrahadena. Some of the limitation in the deep brain stimulation method is from its procedure, such as surgical risk and mechanical replacement. With the surgical risk, it increased the bleeding, infection, blood clotting, and accumulation of the fluid in the brain risk. The usage of the battery in this procedure also isn't a permanent solution, so it needs to be changed every 2 until 5 years. The last limitation is because of the rarity of the procedure used in Indonesia. Patients from outside of Java needs to either come to Java or Singapore to receive this treatment. The after treatment of this procedure, such as office visit for programming and adjusting medical dosage, is held every 3 until 4 weeks. This could be very challenging for patients outside of Java. While there are alternatives of this limitation using web-based deep brain stimulation, the web-based deep brain stimulation isn't yet implemented in Indonesia. Thank you. The next section will be explained by my friend.
So the next one, we are going to talk about the safety and suitability. Next. In the context of suitability, we must first consider the cost effectiveness of deep brain stimulation. Deep brain stimulation in other countries is considered highly economical, especially in India. There, the total price can be 60 to 90% cheaper than in Western countries, such as the US and the UK. The price includes medicine cost, doctor and consultation fee, nursing, pre- and post-accommodations, transportations, etc. Currently, there is no reference about the cost of deep brain stimulation in Indonesia, so the data from other countries can be used as substitutes and considerations. And here we can see the deep brain stimulation price list in various countries, from India, the US, and the UK. The next one will be explained by my colleague. Thank you.
Okay, for future development, the most obvious aspect that we have the opportunity to develop our technology and its application. For the technology, we will have the opportunity to develop in the implant design, where we most likely use the system that integrates with the base stations and can communicate with the implanted medical device, and also transmit telemetry data to the clinicians over the internet. And the networking may also take place via applications that run on the phone or tablets, so it is easier to monitor the pathological neural activity. And the other development is optogenetics, where it shows an obvious promise as a tool for clinical use in DBS. For the application, we can find the development in the changes of its application itself, where patients may get more benefits from implantation of several electrodes. And besides that, we can also find the development in the preoperative planning stage, where we use MRI tractographic techniques. And the focus of these developments are improvement of efficiency and tolerability, better integration with imaging and the other modalities, and also getting the global experience.
Chapter 3, Conclusions and Suggestions. There are 6 conclusions that we can conclude from this paper about the definition and history, clinical roles, indication, mechanism of action, the beneficials and limitations, and safety and suitability aspect of deep brain stimulations. There are also suggestions for the writers and also for the other researchers. The writers need to increase motivation and interest to learn about deep brain stimulation well, so this paper could be improved to be better in the future. There are many aspects which can be improved about the limitations of deep brain stimulation. Other researchers should try to find innovations of technology that are focused on the improvement of efficiency and tolerability, better integration with imaging and the other modalities to treat brain disease as safely and effectively as possible. So that's all about our presentation today. Thank you for your kind attention and have a nice day.